Hello and welcome to yet again another episode of the Brody Moore, aka Liefx podcast. I appreciate everyone that's tuning in. A reminder, if you're watching on YouTube, you can check it out on Spotify as well. Link will be in the description below. And if you're listening on Spotify or watching, there's video on there. And you want to get involved in the discussion, since there's no comments, there is a question, I think. But if you want to get involved in the conversation and suggest other guests, make sure to head over to YouTube. The link will be in the description of that Spotify episode. And make sure you're suggesting people and guests in the comments, because your suggestions lead directly to guests showing on. In fact, that's the guest today. I want to see if I can do this and do it properly. You've seen the title, so you know who I'm trying to imitate here, but let's see if we can do it. It's easy. It's got to be easy, right? The energy, the power, the voice of Rocket League. It's Sean Stackhouse. It's easy. No, that was
Hey, you know what? I could walk into a room to that.
Okay,
so,
all right.
Well done.
I'll rehearse it a bit. You deserve a bit better than that. But yeah, it's not easy to do what you do. You have such a powerful voice, man. And has it always been that weird? Did you came out the womb and you're like, "Hello, world"?
Yeah, I literally came out and it was like, the power, the energy, I'm here. No, it's something that I really think I developed it. If not right when I got into Rocket League, certainly not long after, because I kind of needed it for basketball. I went from, because right around the time Rocket League came out, actually, I think is when I went from doing just high school basketball to announcing at some college games. Mm-hmm. So, the energy's got to be up a little bit more, and there's a much bigger crowd at some of these college games than I'm used to in like a 150 seat high school gym. Yeah.
So we have a lot to get. There's a lot of things I want to get through with you. First off, what was the voice? Because I'm going to tell you when I first started doing YouTube, and I think I actually have them unlisted. They're still findable maybe. Of my first ever videos, recording on a laptop, uploading to YouTube, and this is my commentary. Hey guys, Liefx here. Welcome to another episode we're playing. And it was like super, like terrible recording. It was like 3 FPS, but that was my voice that I put on.
The very first time I did anything for a camera was actually in high school at, we had like a local access TV station, and I would screw off at school. I got terrible grades. I would spend my study halls whenever possible in our TV studio, hanging out with them. And the program director asked me, like, "Hey, do you want to do sports? So why don't you do like a voiceover for this highlight?" I'm like, "Okay, cool."
What age was this?
What's that?
What age was this? Were you?
I was a freshman, so
I don't know what that means as an American.
Ninth grade, so like 13, 14 range.
Oh, okay. So, grade 9.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So I don't know.
Ninth grade,
okay.
if that helps.
Yeah.
So it's a golf highlight.
Okay.
And I thought he wanted me to do commentary.
Oh.
So I've seen golf on TV. This is the easiest thing in the world. So we're here at JW Parks Golf Course for MCI versus Mount View. And here is whoever. And their third shot over on the third hole. I go through this.
Uh-huh.
And the guy says nothing to me about it. He's like, "All right, thanks for that. Thanks for recording it. We'll get it on," and whatever. I watch it at my grandparents' place, and I'm just like, "Oh my Lord. This is awful." I'm going to fall asleep to this, and it's only like a 5-minute thing.
But it was.
I got to the end of it, and I realized, it's a highlight reel, not like a recording of the match. Uh-huh. So I'm just, ugh.
Yeah, that's brutal.
It sucked.
Yeah, well, that's annoying too, because it's like, and that's something that continually is gonna come up in careers like this, where you see your own work, reflect on it, and hate it. I was talking recently, I have to a couple of guests on here, how for season 1 was my most depressed I've ever been in my life. Because I've seen myself, I'm like, my camera presence sucks. I don't like how I'm interacting with my co-caster. Just everything was terrible. I'm like, this is awful. And And I think that's the part of the problem comes from, in your scenarios, you're giving wrong directions. Because that was great. If it sounded like that was good for commentary, but that's not what it was supposed to be. So it's almost more infuriating that it sounds bad, that it really wasn't even up to you at that point.
Yeah, no, that absolutely sucked. But even when I know what I'm doing or think I know what I'm doing, the very first day I was on Rival Series, back when we would have, we'd do EU first, then NA after.
Yeah.
During the break between EU and NA, I get a message from Gibbs. He's like, "Hey, great job on the show today. Just don't look down so much. You try to make more eye contact with the camera." I go back and watch, and I'm like, yeah, so like version 1, beast mode had 5 goals. That was cool. Like, oh, by the way, there's a camera there. Imagine. That's why they bring us out to the studio.
Yeah.
Part of it, probably the at least second best advice I ever got.
What's the first then?
Gillyweed
of course
told me to, of course, Gillyweed.
Everyone that's come on the show, all the casters, has said the best advice I ever got was from Gillyweed.
Yes.
Yep.
Stop using those damn crutch words. She would have me basically practice what I preach. Even before she told me this, I would tell people, find as many different ways to describe the same thing as you possibly can, and then use those things. But sure enough, I get in front of a camera and, the brain just goes, whoop, all those thoughts, there they go. So, everything is kicked off the wall, kicked off the wall, kicked off the sidewall, kicked off the backboard, kicked over here, kicked over the... When you listen back to it, you realize how much it sucks.
And this was because there are certain things, phrases, and like, I mean, wave punks, get up, get loud, like these are good things to have, right? Their familiarity to the audience. They're like, yeah, it's time, right? And they it's like Pavlov's bell, right? They're like, okay, I know good Rocket League's coming, let's get the energy up, right? But if it's too much that it becomes noticeable or overused, then it can become disconcerting to the audience. So yeah, that's why when you have a commentator that you might not even notice Corelli loved that no one talked about him, because it's like, look, I'm doing something right, that I'm there, and there's no problem. That must mean there's no crutch words. I'm not overusing something, underusing something. It's good. And that's the moment you're good, is when you kind of blend in a little bit. Although I think, especially with your voice, it's hard to blend in. You were just you're front and center.
Well, yeah, and the one thing I always chuckle about is, like, I shouldn't, but I do. I look to see what people are saying about me online, because, I'm curious. It's just a natural curiosity that I have. I can't shake
Morbid curiosity. Yeah.
Exactly. So I'll look, and one of the most common things is, man, I hate his casting, but his voice at LAN. I'm like, thanks. You suck at this one thing, but you're really good at this other.
That's great. Well, this is my dilemma, is like, so early on, we all got that really rabid hate at the very beginning. But that's because we did suck, right? And then I still think I think we all at some point think we all suck too, because we're surrounded by so many talented people in the RLCS. Just everybody that's working on it is so talented. So it's easy to continue to see your own things. But looking online, I've always liked that too. Because if it's something that doesn't give me just you suck, I can just chalk it up to they just don't like my style. And it's truthful. I mean, there are different commentators across different esports and sports that I like and don't like. It's not that I don't like them. It's just like I would prefer someone else doing it. It's just because that's my preferred style of commentary. And that's fine. That's why having different styles on a broadcast is super important. But sometimes you do get a little nugget of truth in there that's like, oh, this person's right. I actually did do that a lot, and no one else called that out. So I'm glad they did. Even though if it hurts to feel like, oh, I've messed up, it's good to still be able to have that to build. You don't tell them they're right. Never.
Of course not. Never.
You just take it in and adjust it.
Yeah. I give everybody one. Once they blast me once, it's like, okay, you're blocked. But I might listen to what you said. No, No, I think it's very, very important though to be self-critical, because that's the only way you're going to get any meaningful feedback. I mean, you've seen it. I'm sure you've talked to the people you work with after a cast, and they're all going to tell you, "Yeah, hey, great job. Yeah, great job. Enjoyed it. Real pleasure working with you. Absolutely, good job. Yeah, that was awesome." No, it wasn't. I know it wasn't.
Yeah.
I know you're trying to make me feel good, and you don't want to. Nobody wants to give unsolicited advice, but no, if I suck, tell me, because I want to get better. There are people that want my job. I want them to be here, and I want me to be there.
Right, yes.
So, like, yes, if there's something that I'm doing that you notice, please, dear God, tell me, because I want to know.
Well, this made me miss when we used to do the postmorts.
Yes.
I loved postmorts. For anybody who doesn't, I'll explain it real quick. Is the after a broadcast, we'd have what's just jokingly, it was named postmortem. After the show's dead now. Let's talk about it. But we would get in a circle, production and sometimes production, we would do a group one, and then production would go to their own where they get more nitty gritty on stuff, and then talent would go do their own as well, where they get stuff that doesn't maybe pertain to each group. But you'd have a big initial one where you could talk about just overview, flow of shows, run of show, this piece. I don't think this segment worked. Can we move that there next time, kind of thing. And we go around the circle, and everyone on the show would say a thing that they liked and disliked. And then that gave everyone an opportunity, and then let's narrow it down just to talent. That gave us an opportunity to say, hey guys, I really like that I did this, but I also know I messed this up. So that way you're not going around the circle and everyone's telling you messed it up before you got the chance to say, yes, I already know that. Because it can be very infuriating for everyone to tell you something you already know. So getting that out of the way is really good. But it gives us a chance that maybe, okay, I know I just noticed I messed this up, but because you're so focused on it, you forgot you missed something else. Now someone else in the group can say, hey, by the way you handed this off here made me feel really awkward because I now had to answer a question that I wasn't ready for or something. Can you do this next time? And that way you can work together to create. So that's what postmorts are. And I miss those, Stax. I really
I do too.
Love those.
Yeah, and you touched on a very important part of it, to also talk about something you liked.
Yes.
Because it's very easy to sit there, like, even after any cast I do today, I can look back and go, man, I said or a lot, or there's some awkward pauses, or I said this a lot, that a lot. But it's also important to talk about, like, you know what? That game winner in game 3, I liked that call. I thought, like, on the fly, didn't, not something that I had planned I was going to go with. That goal caught me off guard, but I reacted to it quickly. I liked that, and I want to do that more. Because, again, it's so easy to be negative.
Right.
Especially when you talk about yourself, because you don't want to say, like, I am God's gift to everything. Worship me. And it's important to know that nobody actually thinks that about you. Trust me. Nobody thinks I'm God's gift to anything except me.
Well, I guess our moms might, like parents might.
Yeah. Oh, my parents, like, I brought them to the World Championship in Fort Worth last year, and they were just over the moon. The people sitting around them must have just been so tired of them, because, like, that's my son down there. That's my son. Yeah, I'm so proud of him. That's my son.
No, that's
my
good
dad's
stuff.
sitting there like, oh, at least the ribs are good down here.
That's amazing. Yeah, no, that's good stuff. I love the support. Well, I know you were big on it too. Especially with my Triple Trouble in that too, right? It was like, the familial support has always been really cool in Rocket League. I think it really helps that there's a younger audience, right? So a lot of them have to have their parents come out too, but just seeing the support has always been really fun. I still want my parents to come out too. I think Turtle said his grandma is coming to Boston.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah. She watches apparently, like, actively.
No, that's great. Because, I mean, even my generation, where we had technology all around us, we still had that stigma around gaming, like, oh, it's something losers do. You go outside and be a kid, play a sport. Like, okay, great, but I mean, now you watch the news. You know what happens when you go outside? No, I'm quite content
I'll stay
here.
in my
You know,
hole.
exactly. But also, like, it's something that you can do, that you can be passionate about. You can compete against others around the world without needing to spend a whole bunch of money. I'm looking at you, ice hockey and skiing and everything else. You know, it's it's very low barrier to entry.
Depending on your PC build.
Well, generally, yes. But I mean, heck, with Rocket League, I mean, you don't need a monster of a system to play Rocket League.
That's true.
And a couple other titles are like that too. But, you don't need to break the bank for this. And it's super convenient to compete as much as you want to. If you only want to play it casually, okay, you play casually and you go do other stuff as your passion. But if you are passionate about competing, first of all right, I'm a big fan. Second of all right, let's see how far this can go.
On that note, how do you feel about games? Because like every game, a lot of games that survive as live service tend to be esports, or games that people want to be esports, and you see a lot of games trying to, in my opinion, capture the Rocket League magic. I feel like Rocket League did something special when it blew up that a lot of other games are now trying to replicate. I mean, you see it in I was in a play I can't say what it is. It was very heavy NDA, but like I was in a play test from a very big company making a game right now that is good, but it very much is taking DNA from low poly games. Like it's just the very low textures so they can play on as many systems as possible. And it's fast matches, and it's designed, you can clearly tell that they want this to be a live service, potentially esport. And I sometimes it's like, sure, you kind of have to have those things to be successful in esport, but then putting it in, expecting it to be an esport almost feels weird. How do you feel about games taking that route of like already having an esport in mind? Because then it almost feels like you could fall into the rut of forcing a specific play style, whereas Rocket League, the meta was always developed just by the players.
Well, I think when you develop a game like that, if you have esports in mind, I think it's healthier to have your expectations set. I mean, we remember when, Rocket League esports started out, it was, everybody's flying by the seat of their pants, and the game, I think you could argue in some cases the game was successful in spite of itself sometimes, because it's clear that Psyonix was not ready for this to just go.
But Dave said he'll eat bread because if they get over 15,000 users.
Right.
They did. That was their high level expectation.
That was like their launch, wasn't it?
Yeah. Their launch was like 50,000.
Yeah. Because they broke the servers when the game launched. It's healthy to have the expectation, though, of like, all right, we want this to be an esport, because then you'll know very early on if it's going to hit that goal or not. And if it's not, then you get to decide, all right, well, do we want to solicit feedback and make the necessary changes to make this a real thing? Or, all right, scrap it. We'll go on to the next project.
But my problem comes with, and this is something I saw, I have to be just careful about what I'm saying, but it's just, the problem I find, though, is sometimes a better gameplay loop could happen if they change their perspective of, okay, this has to follow certain rules. This has to follow rules that are set by already successful games, like, for instance, set match times, or like this many players or on the field or whatever, and it feels like you could just make the game a better game if you got yourself out of the rut of having those early expectations, because a lot of these expectations are still set by other games. And in my opinion, what if you have a fantastic game, but instead of getting 100,000 people playing, you got 25,000? To me, 25,000 is still a lot of people and worthwhile keeping a game alive. But you didn't hit the 100,000, so now you're just going to scrap the project. And so those, in my opinion, those expectations can be problematic if they're unrealistically set or set on someone else's success.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, if my game is $20 and I got 25,000 people playing, right? I just made $500,000 on this game that I'm
Yeah.
sure I didn't spend 500K making. So
Yeah.
sure. Um, what I think is important is that uh, developers establish why should I want to play your game?
Mm-hmm.
Like when you make Elden Ring, it's like, okay, you're making this really to be a another Souls-like single player experience, and after you've played through the game, maybe there's some DLC, maybe you want to play through it with a different build, or maybe you want to
Mm-hmm.
speed run it, whatever. Cool. Like the devs all have all that stuff in mind when they make the game. When you make a game like NBA 2K, it's like, well, I want to siphon as much money out of the people that bought this game last year as I possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, if you have a game that is competitive, but you don't necessarily have aspirations of esports, then you got to ask yourself, well, why? What's the long-term plan for this game? Is it something that people are going to have fun just casually playing head to head against each other for their own satisfaction?
Mm-hmm.
Or do we want to eventually set some standardized, all right, these are the most commonly used settings, this is what we're going to use, all right, the people seem to like 3 minutes, people seem to like first to 6 points wins, cool, let's work with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think it is very important to have as many customizable options as possible. Smash Bros does a great job with this because, yeah, you have your competitive matches that are, something like 8 to 10 minutes, 3 stocks, easy. But you play online, and you're going to play on, Wario World or something. You're going to play with items on. You're going to play with a whole bunch of different settings because people just want to be able to play the game. And then, you've got Elite Smash for the spikes.
Mm-hmm. The I don't get how people play with items on. I'm just gonna say that right now.
Okay. Let me tell you how people play with items on. They want to have as much fun and chaos as humanly possible.
You're at a party and you're with your friends that don't play Smash.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Fair.
Yes.
I'll give them that, because that is just like, now you don't care if you lose, right?
Right.
I come from Melee, right? So it's like I'm a purist by most means here in definitions. But yeah, so items always triggered me because I'm like, I got to be the best, and I can't be if I'm getting hit by a Pokemon off the stage.
Oh, of course you got a beam sword out of that capsule. Yeah, great. Here I am with a fire flower. Oh, fear me.
That's really it is. Oh, there's your third hammer.
Nice start, dude, for the second time.
That was funny. Yeah, no, it is well, because it's funny because even Rocket League, I feel, didn't have long-term expectations. They were but that Dave always said, I was always interested in esports, but it was never a goal. They weren't making the game to be an esport to begin with, and I think that's maybe where I find that magic happens, right? The devs were just there, and they even changed what the game was supposed to be. Like Rocket League was not supposed to have a ball in it, like playing like with a net, right? It was a completely different aspect at the beginning. But they did the golden rule of game development is let the game guide you and make sure it's fun, right? If something comes up and you're like, it's not your original vision of the game, but it's really fun, that's the game now. Pivot, and transition to that. Story-based games are obviously a different story, but when it comes to games like Rocket League, it's like let that mechanics-based games, let the if something shows up, let it go. And I think Rocket League had a super magic moment of, they kind of like the idea of competition, but we're gonna make a fun game first. And when you guide a game's design to be competitive, you immediately already start thinking of, I mean, let's look at like Overwatch, in my opinion. Why I think it's a terrible esport. It's fun to play, but I think it's a terrible esport. Is the devs went in saying this is going to be an esport, so we need to have roles that people can get good at. But now you're defining the meta before the players get a hold of it. You're already building mechanics in that are hard set. This thing does this thing, and there's no room for play of creating, finding a flip reset. And now the meta, whenever it changes, it's defined by the devs. They introduce a new hero, And that's the meta now, and it's not the players. And I find that can be a problem when you start with the design of it's going to be an esport.
Well, I think what a lot of esports like that suffer with that. I come from Magic the Gathering. Like before I was ever into esports at all, I was a Magic judge, and late 2000s into the early 2010s. And even well before that, they were very, very much into research and development. And yes, they would have some of their most prominent players get eyes on these cards beforehand, and they would have an internal R&D team, and they would extensively play test everything. And it wasn't so much defining the meta because they were more just making sure the cards are balanced. They're not trying to create archetypes. They're trying to facilitate them.
Yes.
And what you see with games like Overwatch is, all right, you're going to play with this many tanks, this many damage, this many healers, and that's it. There's no room for innovation there. MOBAs are very similar. You're gonna have two in this lane, one here, and you're gonna have one roamer in the jungle. Well, okay, I guess if that's the way the game is played, that's the way it's played. But yeah, I would like to see a more open development style where maybe the roles aren't as clearly defined. The problem I have, or the problem I would have as a player if I were into that genre is, all right, I know it's done this way, and now I've got to learn a whole new system with all these innovative possibilities. That's a little overwhelming. That's a lot to take in. And I think that devs are rightly so worried about taking that leap, because if it doesn't work, it just goes
but then I look at that dev and I say, wow, you don't want to make the best game you can make, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's fair.
And that's how, because imagine in Rocket League, if you were forced, there was a certain area you had to play goalie role. And you weren't allowed to, like, they forced you, invisible walls, couldn't leave a certain area. Like, it's limiting to the potential of a player innovating, right?
Yeah. I see, I mean, you've seen the suggestions when people say, like, well, what about 4v4? What about 5v5? And you had a dedicated goalie. I'm like, oh, God, no. Please, no.
I don't think you'd ever have a dedicated goalie. I don't see why.
Well, I mean, if they were like, hey, but, what if, you could only play in this box, or you got unlimited boost, or you'd have boost recharge in this box, but outside of it you didn't. So it incentivized staying in the box. I'm like, who wants to be that? Like, okay, if this is 2016 and I'm watching, iBuyPower play or Cosmic Aftershock, and I'm like, the biggest Gibbs mark out there, then yes, sure, I want to be like Gibbs. I want to play goalie. I mean, to be fair, when I would play the NHL and FIFA career modes, I would be a goalie. Yeah. But, in 2023, nobody's playing Rocket League to be a specific position. Right. Well, they all want to be striker, but nobody's playing goalie.
Yeah.
And nobody, I don't think anybody would respond well to a change like that.
Yeah. Again, it comes down to the free form allowing the player to make. Yeah. If having a dedicated goalie was better, the players would do it. Right.
Exactly.
But that's up to the players to decide and find out what that perfect play is like. It's not the devs dictating you have to play it this way. And I know I like that, and that's why I brought up the whole topic of devs immediately thinking of esport and saying this is what player you're gonna have. They're thinking to the big stage, and now welcome to the stage. Your defender, it's Johnny, right? And it's like people are like, ooh, Johnny's one of the best defenders, and I don't like that talk. I want it to be, hey, Johnny can do everything, but defending, look at his saves, and that now it's up to the player to define even their own story of like, his shooting percentage isn't that good, but his defense is like this, and now so we call him a defensive player, but that was up just to the player depending on how they played, right? That narrative comes around them, not what was set by devs. That's why I brought that up. I don't know, just
no, I definitely agree with you that you want to be as open as possible initially with your game. I do think you want to be prepared for, this is a competitive game. I think if you're making a competitive game, you want to make it an esport eventually, because that's like your long-term plan. That's how you get more sustainability out of it.
Right.
But no, you don't come up with like, all right, these are the guaranteed set parameters of the game. right out of the box. I
Yeah.
think that it is important to let that evolve, especially if it's something that nobody's ever done before, like Rocket League. Well, SARP/Rocket League. Let's have all these customization options and see what the community likes.
Right. Now, I want to switch gears a little. We're going to keep it to gaming, but a different kind of gaming, because we're going full screen, so prepare yourself. You got some board games. You were mentioning you want to use that table for some other stuff. You also talked about your MTG past. Talk to me about this, because is board games still a passion for you?
Yeah, I mean, I've always liked tabletop gaming. Like, I'm in a couple of D&D campaigns when I can be.
Right.
But yeah, I love card games, especially what's called living card games. So like you have Magic, that's like a trading card game, collectible card game.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Living card games
Live
are more
service
like
card games.
Yeah, right. Yeah, living card games are like something like Marvel Champions, which like, I have a whole bunch of them behind me, and I've got them.
I'm gonna ask you what that was.
Yeah, and like okay, I'm here. Like, this isn't a good example of it. Peter Porker. But and that's all blurry, but you're not going to see it. But Captain America, whatever.
So how does that get? Yeah, what is that? Is that
so basically like it's like a PVE card game, which you could do solo or co-op. And so you have a villain and a scheme that they're trying to enact, and your goal is to defeat the villain before they complete the scheme.
And I like this idea already. I'm telling you.
Right? And, I mean, you've got your own pool of hit points. You've got a deck full of cards. Like, I can just like roam back here. Sorry, Snowball, I need my deck behind you. Yes, the bear has a name. So like you've got a hero like Rocket Raccoon, which again you can't see because it's blurry, but whatever. We totally rehearsed this. And then you've got his deck. We've got allies like Marvel Boy and a whole bunch of cards that you use to build up power, defeat the scheme, defeat the villain, yada yada yada. And it's a very well put together game. It's one that I discovered probably about a month ago and thought, okay, this core set's cool. What else is there? And I went on Amazon and saw like, holy cow, there's all these sets. Well, I'm just gonna go get them all. so that's what I've been in the process of doing over the past few weeks, is just getting all the sets. And I've got that case back there full of stuff, and if I can set this aside, I've got another box here full of cards.
Jesus.
And it's just it has been fun kind of collecting things. And what I really want to do is put this table to use behind me, get some YouTube content going around, teaching people how to play these games and showing like a kind of a let's play of, all right, here's me doing a let's play of the Lord of the Rings LCG. Here's Marvel Champions, Marvel Legendary, and any other board game. Slay the Spire has a board game that's coming out soon. They completed a Kickstarter for that, and I think it ships in December.
Oh, they're making a board game.
Yeah, they're making a card game out of it, like a tabletop game out of it, and that's going to be coming at the end of this year.
Is it going to be similar to the game, or is it they're trying to?
Yeah, very similar to the game and everything. Which there are a lot of like random effects in that. It's a lot like Hearthstone. You wonder how are they going to put it into a tabletop setting. So I'm very curious to see how it'll all work.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess suppose as you go through the levels, you could like, okay, when you're on this floor, take this deck, and now you flip these because these monsters will appear here randomly. What effects do they have?
Right.
Okay, I could see that working.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see how it'll all work. And I'm sure I would probably have all those questions answered if I just look at their Kickstarter page. But I literally saw, like, I looked at it for 5 minutes, thought, okay, this is really cool. Bought whatever, like, I don't know, highest or second highest tier was because I want all the collector stuff.
Yeah.
It was like, cool. I will see you in December. Surprise me.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I feel like if you do a roguelike, it's a lot easier, right? But when you're, because it is a roguelite, right? Like you're carrying over stuff to your next runs. So that gets a little harder. Like what if you take a break? How do you come back and have the, carried over abilities and stuff?
Yeah, it is different from floor to, well, it does feel different from floor to floor. It's going to be difficult to kind of put that all together. What I like about these LCGs like Marvel and the Lord of the Rings one is, you can carry things over from scenario to scenario, and they give you something in the book to like track it like you're running a campaign. And you can mark like, okay, this character had 3 damage on them, and we got this card as a reward, so this goes into the deck now, and you just kind of keep your own notes.
I see.
And it could be it could be in the book they give you, it could be just in a notebook, it could be anywhere. But I mean, there is some record keeping to be done, and that could be a turnoff.
That I was gonna say right off the bat, though, that is still tedious because like I'm already getting like PTSD to all my single player story games, like video games that I'm halfway through, and now I don't want to start up again because I'm like, I don't know what was happening. Skyrim.
Oh, that happens all the time to me. Oh God, I could just pull up anything in
I've started Skyrim about 9 times.
Yeah, that's one. I mean, anywhere in my library, just pick a game, right? Demio is like it was VR initially. They've moved it over to Steam as well. It's kind of like a dungeon crawler game with it's not a D20 system, but something similar.
I do know that game. Yeah. I was yeah.
I've played through like a couple scenarios, and it's cool. But now, like, if I pick it up again, I got to start from the beginning.
Yeah, like where was
same thing. Fallout 4, I've probably started 5,000 different characters, and I've probably actually only played through the whole story 3 times.
I have still to beat Skyrim. I have probably 1,500 hours. It's not a lot compared to like Skyrim fans, but like when you get over 1,000 hours, you figure at least at that point you've completed the main story once. No, because every time I go back, I end up playing for 10, 20 hours, and then I stop playing for a month, come back, I'm like, okay, where was I? Try to play for another 10, 20 hours, and then I come back and I'm like, what was I doing? I'll just start a new character. And the process repeats.
Yeah, no, I think the God, what was the choke point for me in Fallout 4? It was always like I would always get to Corvega, and that's when the game like really opens up. You can go anywhere in the world from there.
Okay.
And it's like, yes, there's a story, but you're just about in the center of everything. Go wherever you want. And then I'm pretty sure I have ADHD. So, I just look around like, well, there's something over there. Oh, but there's something over there now. Well, I'm on my way to this, but like, there's a zombie I can kill over here.
Yeah.
It's like, it's impossible.
I also here's a minor rant from me. I also find that games do that on purpose, and it kind of bothers me because a lot of times it doesn't feel like real content, and it feels like they're artificially inflating playthrough hours to the point that I'm a completionist. I need to get everything done. If I start it and I can't, and that's what part of what overwhelms me going back to these games is I'm like, I have 40 quests that I have not completed, and it gets overwhelming to the point I'm like, what am I gaining out of this? So I actually had to, in Skyrim, start telling myself to play the way I want to play. And now when I go through, if I find a bookshelf, I read every book because I'm like, you know what?
Oh wow!
I want the thing that matters most to me about Elder Scrolls games is the lore. So why don't I just read the books that are in here? And I just started reading books. And I'm like, this is enjoyable to me. I'm not min-maxing my stats right now, but who cares? I'm reading books. I'm immersing myself in this world. And I had to teach myself to play that way. Even in games, I'm finally trying to finish Horizon Forbidden West. I got some gripes. I don't think the plot's as good. It's not as good as the first one. And I don't really care for Aloy. She's kind of a dick. And that's hard when your protagonist is kind of a dick. And but I said, you know what? I'm just gonna play through the way I want to play, and that's if I see a mountain, I'm gonna go climb it. Even though I know, and this is my problem, they're so hand-holdy now. All these little secrets are on your mini map now, and I hate that. There's no room for Elden Ring did a good job of that. They don't tell you where shit is. You just got to come across it. And that's what is missing in I talked about Gibbs in the last episode of this too, is that you're missing that exploration element of having an actual replay value. Because now with something like Horizon, everything's marked. I can complete everything on one playthrough. It's going to take me 80 hours, but I can just complete it and there's no replay value. Like it's such a beautiful world. I want to explore it, but you're telling me where to go.
Yeah, I don't necessarily want everything to be, readily visible to me on my first playthrough. I do want to be able to get the best ending in the first playthrough. One game that I found that really, I think it's a cardinal sin if you have to play a game a second time to get the best ending.
Okay.
So something like Digimon Survive. I'm a huge Digimon mark. Like when everybody was watching Pokemon as a kid. No, I was watching Digimon.
I loved Digimon as a kid too.
Yeah.
I thought it was
absolutely
overall plot. The setting was way better.
Yeah, no, like TK was my spirit animal. Patamon was the best. But when I would play I would play all the other Digimon games. The Digimon card battle game on the PS1 was excellent. But this Digimon Survive, I'm playing through the first half of the game, and I'm seeing a lot of like different paths you can take.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, well, I don't really want to play this game a second time. Like, it's fun, it's fine, but
there's other things
a lot of hours.
Investment. Yeah.
Exactly. There's a lot of hours, and I don't have a lot of hours. I'm busy with the other 10 games I want to play and, my career. So, so I'm looking up like, okay, so is there a way you can like not have characters die? Like, yes, you can basically save everyone in New Game Plus. I'm like,
oh, okay. So you have to play through again.
Yeah. Having to play through a second time, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna just watch the speed run.
Well, I was about to ask you then, do you find yourself in scenarios like that? Do you watch a lot of Let's Plays then?
I do.
Okay.
I watch a ton of different,
it sounds
whether
like
it's
you would,
Let's Plays or challenge runs. Like, yeah, I do watch a lot of Let's Plays. I started watching one, actually, I've had King Arthur Knight's Tale on my Steam wish list forever. And I was watching through some of Carnage playing it. And I'm like, okay, I finally have an idea of what this game is. But eventually, I'm just going to get all the story if I keep watching this. So I'm like, and then, I don't know, a couple days ago, I got the notification, hey, this game on your Steam wish list is on sale. All right, I'm in. Let's go. Stop watching this Let's Play. I went and I watched like his final video, because at the end of all his series, he does like a little 3 to 5 minute video giving his thoughts on the game. He's like, this is a good game. Thank you, Carnage. I will now play this game.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, because for me, playing Hogwarts Legacy recently, just as someone that grew up with it, it was very nostalgic, right? So to me, it was just, it was a lot of importance in being able to be in that world and do stuff. So I didn't watch anything about it. I actually streamed it like twice, and then I'm like, this is too risky. People might start saying stuff. I had 1 or 2 things spoiled about it that I'm like, that to me takes away from my experience, because I want to discover that thing. And if I don't discover it for 5 playthroughs, then I don't discover it. And to me, so I don't want to know anything about, when I'm playing games like that, I don't want to know nothing. So like watching stuff ahead of time and then being like, oh, now I want to play this. They're very select games. I can't do what you do, because like maybe a competitive game, sure, I'll watch playthroughs and be like, is this worth investing time into getting better at? Right. But story stuff, it's like I really feel like I have to play stuff with zero knowledge to actually enjoy it properly, because then I could be excited like, oh, I found this is so cool, instead of being like, yeah, I knew that was there.
Yeah. It's weird. I hate surprises.
Really?
Like I've had people like try and surprise me with parties and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, but this would have been cooler if I just knew, like, because now I have to improv a reaction where normally, like, I'm usually a very stoic guy.
Yeah.
Even when, CRL, when Bento was running the broadcast, would have like caster reactions and stuff. Even if you see me at LAN, I look like I'm bored. Like, somebody would score like a ceiling reset, musty double, whatever, and first killer scores. I just mark down. All right. So
you're not as animate as Jorby.
Right. Yeah. And so they put these caster reactions up, and, I'm casted with Daz. So he's like, oh, NRG. Oh, Northwood. Lion Blaze did it again. Unbelievable. I'm like, yep. So Lion Blaze goal, hockey assist. You know,
sound
and
excited.
it doesn't help that my camera's up there, so I'm looking at the monitor here. So already my eyes are like deep into my head anyway. So you see shadow here
Because the lighting,
yeah, you see shadow with, you know, the shadow here because I never sleep.
Dude, same.
And
look, that's
you know,
why I wear my glasses to hide it.
Yeah, right. And that's actually why I started standing more, because there's more range of motion, right? You know, here I'm at my desk. There's very few things I can do, you know.
Right, yeah.
Especially where all my info is like on this desk in front of me.
And even if you want to like try to like roll, like push your chair out and roll out, like, whoa, you can't really do that because like if you got a green screen behind you, it's like
yeah, I've either got a green screen behind me or a limited cable, because that's the last thing I need. Like, whoa, run back and then just bring the whole thing with me. Yeah.
Where'd Stax go? It just crashes. Beep.
Yeah, right. And then, of course, you know, if I drag, you know, a cable that's linked to the camera, then maybe now you see the fact that, you know, none of us casters actually wear pants when we cast from home. Yeah, right. So, you know, it's just
I wear pants, but I'm usually in sweatpants. I'll have a nice shirt on, but I'm in sweatpants.
Technically correct.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I know. Quite the opposite on the surprises thing, though. But it's I just like to, if it doesn't have to be something where I'm competing against someone else, then I don't want to know it.
Yeah.
So let's plays are hard. I was just curious because I guess I always wondered because like I thought about doing some more. Well, I started doing a let's play on a channel. I have a lot of YouTube channels now. On my secondary one, I guess. I started doing just a sort of playthrough of a game called Outward, and it turns out there's a really big fan base behind it, and there's not a lot of content for it. So my videos started blowing up right away, and I'm like, oh, people actually started suggesting, hey, you don't need to do as many cuts, like, you know. And I'm like, but do people really want to see me like wandering through a field and discovering how food works or something in the game? And apparently yes. And it's like I can't see that, so it's hard for me to make that kind of content.
I ran into that problem with a game called Icarus, you know, another survival crafting game. That, I mean, none of these games are ever completed. That's like the one constant in the genre. Like Grounded might be the best survival crafting game ever created because it's finished.
I only played it when it was in pre-release or in early access.
Yeah, so you saw it when it was like every other game.
Yeah.
But you know, Icarus, to set the scene, it's a very beautiful game. I mean, just the visuals are stunning.
Yes, I remember seeing, you know,
it is pretty graphics intensive. And they're constantly releasing updates. I mean, they've released a weekly update ever since launch. So they're, you know, week 60, 70 something. Every Thursday or Friday, boom, there's an update. But I would put some videos on YouTube, and they're still there, where I would play through a mission. But if you sit down and play a mission in a single sitting, you're there for hours.
Yeah. Oh wow.
And you know, that's a tedious process, or it can be. And I just had it in my head that like, okay, how am I going to upload this? Am I going to do this in like 30-minute bits?
Oh, it didn't work.
Am I going to do this in, you know, one big 3-hour upload? Like, what am I doing? Like, I had in my head, nobody wanted to, yeah, there it is. Nobody wants to sit there and watch me play this game for 4 hours building a house. But then some people told me, yes, we do.
Right. And
like, well, here we are.
And that's why, like, I want to ask people, like, why they, like, is it something that they throw on it? Well, again, because you yourself watch Let's Play, so you're gonna have a bit more insight than I do on this. But is it just background noise that's relaxing, and if there's too many cuts, it can be jarring? Is it that you're learning stuff from these Let's Plays? What is it? Is it the personality of the person playing?
I mean, it's a mix. I enjoy watching, like, one of my favorite streamers to watch is InSim, especially when he's playing Phasmophobia, because, like, I enjoy watching somebody play a game when they can demonstrate a clear mastery of it.
Okay.
You know, when they know the game like the back of their hands, and they can basically make that game their bitch. And InSim does exactly that. And he still has moments that, you know, jump him and, you know, get the horror sense out of it. But, like, seeing somebody sufficiently conquer a game is very cool to me, because, you know, that's something that I will never achieve in any game ever. But you can learn a lot from it. And if they have a good personality, which he does, it can be very entertaining to just listen to, even if, I can't sleep in dead silence. So I'll put on like, a wrestling podcast, or I'll watch a stream, and, it's like a 3-hour challenge run of something, and I'll just fall asleep watching and listening to that.
Yeah. That's great for their watch time.
It's fantastic for their watch hours.
Especially if you've got autoplay on. Just keeps going.
No. I learned a long time ago, turn autoplay off, because the last thing I want is to be watching some random video.
And then
forget that it's on in the background, and then something from somebody completely different comes up, because the algorithm sure as hell ain't perfect. And all of a sudden, I'm listening to somebody screaming their head off like a total lunatic.
Yeah.
There's one thing I absolutely hate is like the fake reaction videos.
Yeah.
Somebody is like intentionally being bad at a game. That stuff, instantly turn it off. Don't recommend this shit to me ever again. I do not want this ever showing up on my timeline.
It's interesting, because I can understand how people felt that, because what I was going to say, what I've learned from people that at least watch my, like, even if it's because some of my best performing videos on my Star Citizen channel are ones where I'm showing new players the game, and I think a lot of it comes down to people care about the game. Same with Outward, people care about this game passionately. They want to see how other people, if people say, "Oh, I don't like this mechanic," or "Oh, this is so cool," what they want to be validated in their thing, right? So that validation is huge. And I think having someone react like, "Oh my God, what the hell," is like, that's dopamine releasing for those viewers that want to be validated. So I think the people that get overly, they go so far into it, are like, "Ooh, I can monetize these happy reactions by, even though I know what to do here, I'm going to pretend I don't know what to do here, so that I can be like, whoa, that's so cool, you could do that." And people like that. So I can see how they've gotten to that point.
If you leave some room for plausible deniability, like, I'm not actually faking this. Okay, based on the rest of your reactions, I can actually believe that.
Yeah.
When it's, when everything, it's kind of like what we deal with casters. If everything is hype, nothing is hype, right? So if everything gets this way over the top reaction, okay, dude, like, I get it. You're really you've got enough thumbnail fodder. Like, let's go already.
Yeah.
A perfect example, I think, from like one of my Icarus videos. Like, I was doing I was playing on hard mode and doing hardcore. So if I die once, okay, series is done. And so I'm, messing around after I've completed a mission, going, because you can mine like exotics and get the other currency in the game. And I'm really low health, being chased by a bear. Bad news.
Sounds like it.
And I think we're probably a lot of other YouTubers are like, "Oh my God, bear, no, die. I'm sitting there just backing up through water, and I'm just like super focused, like, shoot.
Yeah.
Like, just completely stoic, and then bear dies, and I just go,
You're controlled of it. Yeah.
Yeah, right? Like, all right, cool. And I watch that back and go, such a boring reaction, but what do you want me to do? I can't fake excitement.
Yeah.
Which makes me laugh when people say, like, everything I do in Rocket League is fake. Like, no, it's genuine interest, it's genuine excitement. I can't fake doing anything. I'm a terrible actor. If I was a good actor, listen, there's a lot more money in acting than there is in esports anything. So I'd be an actor if I could do it.
If you could do it. That's why I find the videos that, for me, that can do that are when I'm showing new players, because their reactions are genuine, right? Like, everything they're doing is a real reaction to a thing, because they've not seen anything about it before. And even if they've seen anything about specifically about like Star Citizen, they probably don't know much of the depth, right? You don't, unless you're playing it, you don't really get it. So the reactions are real. But for me, it's like, I can't pretend to not know something. I'm the same way as I'm a min-maxer too in games. So even that bear scenario, I'd probably be trying to cheese that bear, get it trapped behind a tree or something that I can just sit there. I did that in Horizon the other day. I found a rock where there's two giant robots trying to get me. It was a really hard section. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go hide over this rock. And I literally sat there going like this, poke, shoot, poke, shoot, poke, shoot, poke, shoot. Yep. And they couldn't get me, right? And it's like, that's not fun. Maybe some people like the cheese, but like that's not exciting. I'm not going to react to it because I'm like, ooh, nice, cheese.
It's funny you mentioned that because in Icarus, bears are the most terrifying enemy until you've got like 2 hours of game time and you realize that you could just literally run past them to their right and they can't hit you.
and that's why I'm like, I don't know how I can do Let's Plays or why people want to see them, because I just, once you understand the mechanics of something and how to abuse it, is that entertaining anymore?
Yeah, which is why, like, I don't watch a whole lot of Let's Plays for story games. I'll watch challenge runs. I'll sit there and watch the guy that, goes through all the Dark Souls games without getting hit. Or, the one guy I'm watching right now had like a bow-only run through Dark Souls 3. And I'm like, well, okay. I got a soft spot for bows in games. I don't do archery in real life. I've never had any interest in doing it. But playing archers in games... I'm a big Green Arrow fan. So like I will watch this, I will embrace this, I will want to replicate this and fail. But seeing somebody actually do it is like, okay, this is cool. And then you realize how tedious it actually is in Dark Souls 3 and you go, never mind, this sucks. But but a challenge run like that, I can appreciate the mastery that goes into it and I will watch it.
It's different. It's not just someone cheesing one boss. It's someone trying to cheese the whole game, which takes on a whole different context.
Yeah. Right? And it's my curiosity of, how do you do this? Yeah. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, I actually thought about that because I'm like, well, there's a few ideas for like a Hogwarts Legacy video I want to make or a Let's Play, but I'm like, how can I make it interesting? I'm like, well, I do want to do eventually a run through where I play the whole game with the HUD completely turned off, no hints or anything available. So even my spells, I'll have to memorize what spells are on what button presses and everything, because you can move them around and stuff, and play the game with that might be interesting for people to say, wow, how can you navigate a whole game and it looks prettier when there's no HUD on the screen, right? You can just see the game. So it is. I think you're right on the challenge aspect, and maybe that's something I should try to approach with some of these games is. Actually, I saw someone do it in Star Citizen. They're like, I'm going to try and go from $0 and 0 ship. I'm going to pretend I don't have a ship. Can you play Star Citizen with no ship and get to buy in a ship? Can you start with nothing? Because the game starts you with a ship, right? You always have a base ship. So yeah, those maybe I'll look at some of those challenges too. But yeah, I can see why those would be funner.
Yeah. Actually, I have a roommate that also streams, and he will play exactly like what you're talking about, though. He doesn't want he plays blind through any game he plays, and it's like, that's cool, but I can't. I've told him this. I can't watch you play this game because, especially if it's a game I know, it's like I can't watch unless it's something like I want to be the guy, where like part of the challenge is just like the challenge of the game. If it's just, well, I don't know what to do here, well, I'm not going to sit there and watch you try and figure out a puzzle unless you're really, really, like, unless you've got a conversation going that I am really enthralled in here. Like, I can't watch people be bad at things, which makes me wonder how in the hell I ever got through casting weekly tournaments with Nexus back in like 2016.
The thing is, other people like to watch people be bad at things because it makes them feel better, right? That's probably why there's a lot of fans of you.
Yeah, probably.
At least one jab had to get in there. I want to ask you now, moving on from games entirely, let's go to the real world. Let's stop being nerds, because you're also a big fan of real sports as well. Traditional sports. I don't want to say real sports, traditional sports. And it just seems like competition in general between board games, esports, traditional sports. You like a competition and maybe storylines. Do you just like watching people be good at stuff, or is it the stories that you like watching? Because and what real sports? So 3 questions: is it storylines? Is it the mechanics of watching people be good, or is it and what sports are you really involved in?
2 of my favorite athletes of all time: Tiger Woods, Ronnie O'Sullivan. everybody knows who Tiger Woods is. You probably don't know necessarily who Ronnie O'Sullivan is.
Ronnie.
He's the greatest snooker player in the world.
Ah, okay.
Numerous world championships. He's been a professional for since he was a teen, I believe. He's I think the youngest player to record a perfect 147 break. If you know snooker, you know what I'm talking about. Basically, you get the highest possible score in one go at the table.
I had a feeling that's what it meant.
Yeah. And he did it in the fastest time, which nobody's ever come close to. He did it in like 5 minutes and some odd seconds.
Like still to this day?
Yeah, nobody's ever come close to it. He would always have he would always kind of play really quickly. So they called him the Rocket, Ronnie O'Sullivan. So I watch players like that because I do enjoy just seeing a master of their craft.
Yeah, fair.
And so that kind of draws me to just a lot of pro sports in general. It's why I can admire someone like Magnus Carlsen in the chess scene. I could watch someone like Mike Trout, even though he's not on the Red Sox and he's going to absolutely obliterate our pitching. That's fine. I'm watching a generational athlete at their peak just perform, and that's really, really cool to me.
I agree with you.
And so just the nature of competition, seeing somebody who's a master of their craft, that's something that I really, really enjoy, and it doesn't necessarily have to be somebody at the absolute top. If it's just a close game, I'll stop and watch.
Yeah.
I do a lot of public address announcing, and I've learned, as in esports, not all great games are close and not all close games are great.
Right.
But most close games are very entertaining.
Right.
Like I announced, we normally play 7 innings in high school baseball. I just announced a game the other night that went 12 innings. And, the fans that stayed through the whole thing, they're the true fans. First of all, they're friends and family, so they got to stay to get their kids a ride home. But second, they're there because they enjoy what's happening. It got to a lot less of yelling at the umpires and yelling at whoever to, this is just fun. Let's see how far this goes.
Yeah. I've always been a fan of, I wonder if it's like an empathetic thing too, is because when a match is close like this, you start to understand for these players how much and maybe it helps if you've been in competition. I don't know, but it's like you understand the adrenaline going through these players, what this means to them, how focused they must be, and those pure focus modes are just like really fun to be involved in. And I think from an outside perspective, you can empathize with that. All of these players are doing their best right now. They're under the pressure of having to perform. And again, you're right. It can go bad where, two teams just suddenly get defensive and there's nothing going on. But it's like,
yes,
it can be really exciting. And even if a shot should have gone in or something, bringing it back to Rocket League, we'll look at the semis, season 8, right? Yeah, Vitality. It was just like that overtime was just insane. It just like on the goal line. Sure, maybe wasn't the most best Rocket League in the world, but it was so close, and you understand that pressure, and that's something you can empathize with. And you're right, that moment of like, oh, is it going to go in? And then the commentators hyping that up is a really fun moment to be involved in.
Yeah, and it's very important to me, whether I'm just like the stadium announcer or I'm actually doing commentary, to appreciate that somebody cares about this, even if it's just an atrocious game, even if it happens to be like SSA versus APAC at LAN, and like it's very clear that these are not the best teams in the world, but like they're good, they earned their spot here,
and those players
cares about this game. The players care. They have fans that do care, and especially in SSA's case, there are going to be people from back home that are watching this, like they're proud of this team for getting to this level and competing.
Right.
Like if I go in just going, yeah, well, all right, it's Limitless and Elevate. Look, none of these teams are going to win the event, so I don't know why you're all watching this, but here we go. Yeah, geez, somebody's got to win. Like, no, it's an event for the people involved, and I want to care. Or certainly, I can't care as much as they care because they're the players. This is their livelihood.
Yeah.
But I've learned to appreciate their efforts, and be happy for them when they succeed, because there's nothing I love more than seeing people just being happy, being proud of something they've accomplished.
Yeah.
And so somebody cares. I have to make sure that I'm telling a story that even the people that don't care, that are like, the G2 fans who don't respect these teams, they will maybe care by the end of this, like, you know what? That was fun.
So, what draws you? So you're involved again. You've done commentary for high school sports. You're coaching with high school esports teams and locally. And so, what's drawing you to be passionate about? Because you're very passionate. We see you in our green room Discord. Just you're always this thing, or yay this thing, and you're always passionate about it. It's awesome to see. But what is it that draws you to that? Is it the chance to maybe see a once in a generation talent crop up, or is it what you just mentioned about having those close matches and these kids care about these things, or maybe something else? What draws you to those scenes?
Specifically with our high school team, what keeps me just constantly coming back to it is the group of kids we have is very competitive, and they know they're not the best. I mean, listen, the best high school players in our state are like low GC at best. But they're also freshmen and sophomores, so you're gonna hear their names in CRL pretty soon, I'm sure.
Okay.
But they know they're not the best. They know that, if they're 15 and they're not already just cracked out of their skull at the game, the RLCS is out there. It's not their realistic landing point.
Right.
But they're competitive within their space. They want to be, first of all, better than they were at the start of the season and better than everybody else is at the end of the season. And that's something I can get behind. I know that I can't just tell a kid, all right, do these training packs, do this, do that. You need to rotate around here to the back post more often, stop cutting through all this stuff. That's not going to get them motivated to do anything. But if I tell them, all right, listen, we've got a 7-week season coming up, and, this is the level everybody else is at. But I want us to be here, give them a goal to hit at the end of the season, and, some incentives along the way. It's like, okay, we can progress towards this. And as long as we see constant progress along the way, they don't get discouraged. I do think it's a mistake to kind of say, all right, hit GC by this point. Well, no, tell me how you're going to do it.
Yeah.
Like,
you need a plan.
be able to hit this first. Now, be able to stay in Diamond, be able to stay in Champ, work on this mechanic, that mechanic, and okay, now I can consistently hit double taps. That's cool. Like, great. Now I can consistently pass the ball. Awesome. That's all stuff that's going to get you to the next level, but it's taking those baby steps along the way and recognizing that you're taking them. So, seeing people be really happy with this progress they're making, whether it's in Rocket League or Smash or even NBA 2K, like, that's really cool to me.
Yeah. I was gonna say, what about commentary on traditional sports then too? Is the same thing of watching from the online? Because obviously then you're not getting involved with the teams. You're just being there as present in the moment with them, but you're not guiding them along. What draws you to that? And again, what sports do you commentate?
So
or Stadium?
Yeah, right. For commentary, it's mostly basketball, football, a little bit of baseball.
Okay.
For public address announcing, it's everything under the sun, basically, at UMaine. Anytime they need an announcer, I'm one of the first people they call.
Well,
so,
no shit.
Yeah. But what I really enjoy about it, because, look, I'm not doing it for the money. I mean, full disclosure, for a high school or college game, if you get $50 to $75 a game, like, you're doing really well. There are people that can get triple digits and do a lot more and command a lot more. Cool. But yeah, we're not paying the bills with this job at all. In fact, all the money I get from announcing, I just put into, like, we have a bank account for the esports team. I just put it into that.
Okay.
It's like, great. I get myself a burger and the rest goes in there.
What a swell guy.
But what draws me to those events for traditional sports, I do like seeing the competitive nature, because especially being at UMaine, like again, we're not winning a lot of national championships. This isn't like our hockey program in the 80s and 90s where like we were really, really, really good. They've been rebuilding. Football they're not even in like the top Division 1. They're in like the football championship subdivision. You've got, a lot of our other sports, baseball, basketball, they're all in basically the automatic invite conferences where nobody's getting an at-large bid into the NCAA tournament. You have to win your conference to get into the national tournament, and that's the end of it. Seeing teams having to compete with that level of pressure and still be able to succeed when, let's face it, Orono, Maine is not exactly the party capital of the college world. It's tough to recruit kids, elite talent to come up here, but we've got like, I think 3 potential All-Americans on our baseball team. They're the number 1 seed going down to Binghamton to play in the conference tournament for the 2nd year in a row. Like, seeing the rebuilding process for these programs, which is really hard, especially in this college landscape, is really fun to me.
What if you just throw lobster dinner parties all the time? You'll attract all the best talent, right? That's what Maine does, right?
It wouldn't do it for me. I'm like the only person up here that's not a seafood guy.
I would be out of place too, because I'm not big into seafood either. Lobsters I can do if they're grilled, right? But
the only seafood I'm into, look, I see food and I eat it. That's about it.
You didn't even need to say the joke. You just say, you know what? I knew where you were going. Okay, so out of all the stuff you've done, I'm very curious. What has been your favorite? What's your favorite traditional sport? Your favorite esport? And it's okay to not say Rocket League. No one's gonna yell. But overall, what's always drawn to you the most? And then compare those top 2 and which one's better out of those.
Well, I'm going to cop out. I am going to tell you my favorite esport is Rocket League.
Of course.
And to give you it, because I can be rambly, but to put it as succinctly as I can, the fact that I have a roof over my head, that I own, and that I have all the security right now in my life is because of Rocket League. Without discovering the game back in 2015, I'd probably still be living at home with my parents or something. Like it would just be, I'd be in a completely different space. It has been life-changing for me. The people I've met along the way have been some of the most important people in my life. Subi and Daz are better friends for me than anybody I grew up with. It's just, and this whole group, you, Wave, Corelli, everybody, has been such a huge positive in my life. So I shudder to think what my life would be like without it.
Fair.
So easily my favorite esport.
Now, bias aside, what's your favorite esport?
That aside from Rocket League, probably my second favorite esport to watch is Smash. Partially because, we have it in our high school program.
Right, yeah.
But also because, like, it's just, that community's been through so much, man. Like,
I'm from Melee, so
yeah,
preach,
preach. It's hard pressed to find a company that hates their fans more than Nintendo, right? So, like the Smash community drags Nintendo kicking and screaming through these esports events. Because we all remember pratfalls. Oh, for the love of God, the slips in was it Brawl?
The tripping in Brawl, yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Let's just add some RNG to the game for no reason.
Yeah. Oh.
Brutal.
Yeah. And as for a traditional sport, oh man.
Gotta pick a favorite.
Yeah. And it's really tough because at the high school side, like a lot of my experience of sports are soured by fans. Like, yes, it's great to have a bunch of screaming fans, but then you've got the dad that's yelling 3 seconds every time at a basketball game, or it's just like, come on, Blue, that was clearly at the knees. Like you're 500 feet away, dude. You can't even see the plate. You know,
if you were the
little
coach,
things
you'd
like
be
that.
the coach, but you're not. So shut
Right?
up.
Yeah, like please. And then you hear Coach Dad from the stand shouting out instructions when the coach wants the kid to do something else.
Yeah.
I've seen games lost because of that, and it's just mind-blowing to me, like how a coach can practice enough restraint not to just go want to throttle the parent that was yelling at their kid.
Good thing about hockey is that at least there's some boards there to block some of the sound.
Exactly, and so probably my favorite sport to be a part of it all is ice hockey.
That's the right answer, by the way. The show would have ended here if you didn't say it. You're talking to a Canadian that played hockey his whole life. So.
Yeah, I know my neighbors. You know, I've especially being involved in hockey at UMaine. Like, you know, we're going to Aganis Arena for the spring major, right?
Yeah.
And do I have that hoodie? I don't have it. No, I don't have it out. Damn. But I've got one that, you know, says like the good, the bad, and the ugly. So the good is the main Black Bear logo. The bad is the BU logo. Okay. And then the ugly is the New Hampshire logo.
Okay.
I'm going into Boston University's hockey arena as a UMaine guy and being part of hosting an event. And it's just the weirdest thing in the world because Alfond Arena is like sacred ground for us here up in Maine. You know, it's where UMaine plays in Orono.
Feels like blasphemy to go there.
Yeah, and it's actually getting a massive upgrade now, but like we realize that the place is not to be a modern facility, but you know, the video board is awful. You know, just the acoustics really boost the sound, but it's not the best fan experience. So you know, we're hoping that the renovations now will do it, but being at games at the Alfond when that team is good or in a close game or when like Boston University comes to town and we could beat them or when we, you know, beat New Hampshire in their coach's final game, like, you know, okay, that's cool. And the place goes absolutely nuts.
It's funny.
Hockey to me has the best fan experience out of anybody.
It sounds like someone at the Aganis Arena heard and they started hacking your internet for a second. They're like, we can't let them speak anymore.
That wouldn't surprise me.
You're back now. I've
said enough things that I'm expecting like my mic to cut out at some point at that event, or I'm gonna have to like do the intros for the finals from the parking lot.
That's so funny. Yeah, that's either way, it's still gonna be. I think what's cool is hopefully your bias will be able to be set aside and just enjoy that Rocket League is there in a wonderful arena. But are you going to try to sneak in some sort of cheeky dig at the arena or at the team? He's like, yep.
We just check the calendar here. I want to make sure I get everything right. I guess you'll just have to tune in from July 7th through the 9th.
Yep.
Find out.
I know. I had a feeling he's got a script already written. There's going to be some subtle.
Actually, 6th to the 9th, right?
6th to the 9th. 6th to the 9th.
Yeah, 6th to the 9th. Yeah, we play on Thursday. Listen, I wouldn't do anything without the crowd there. Come on.
You know, it's funny. The only reason I could remember recently the dates for our majors recently was because the last one was April 6th to 9th, and this one is June 6th to 9th. So July. But the only reason I can remember is because I'm 12 years old and 6 to 9. It's the only reason.
Cringe. I'm 12 on the internet and everything is cringe.
Everything is. I hate that, man. Let me tell you right now that the word cringe is in itself cringe. I hate it. It's just so dumb. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being old man yelling at cloud. What's the most old man yelling at cloud moment you've ever had? Can you think of one?
Oh, man. The most old man yelling at clouds.
Because there's some good things that the next generations have come up with. Like the word yeet is phenomenal. I love yeet. I think it's just, that's staying. That is in the English vocabulary. It's going to get in the dictionary. Like it's just a fantastic, uncontrolled, powerful throw. Yeet.
Because like, so I've been a big baseball fan for a lot of my life.
Okay.
But I'm not like, I'm not like one of those guys that goes, you can't admire a home run or, you can't celebrate anything in baseball. You deserve to get thrown at. Like none of that, because that's just stupid and it's going to kill the sport.
Yeah.
Exactly. But when I see like this is primarily a Rocket League thing. When I see Rocket League players get involved in drama on Twitter, I'm just like, shut up and play the game. You know, like, you know, like first of all, you guys have a wit as sharp as a dull sword. Just like nobody cares about your Twitter beef.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I saw Yan and Money going at it, especially when Yan had another match to play later in the day, I'm just like, you just won and you've got another match. Why does this guy, who doesn't occupy anybody's headspace, occupy yours all of a sudden? You know, like, nobody's going to remember this beef unless you then lose, which, what happened? They lost, and he was invisible for half the series. It's like, come on, just shut up and play the game. So, yes, you know, that's kind of like the old man in me just coming out and like, listen, you got a job to do. Focus on the job. Worry about the other stuff later. Just be the competitor first, and then go be a human after.
Reddit loves the drama, though. Are you saying they're all wrong? Did I find my Twitch clip? This is going on there. Sean Stax hates the the drama.
You found the clip right there. Stax absolutely hates drama. Listen, when I think what Shift started out as like Drama Alert or they merged or something like that.
Yeah, there's some.
Listen, I had Shift, if not blocked, at least muted for a long time after they just became Shift. You know, and a lot of people from there, like, you know, I've had beef with them over the years because I say beef. It's not that I didn't care about them. I just didn't care for them.
Right. Okay.
You know, like people that were propagating a whole bunch of drama stuff. I just
you didn't need it.
I have no use for it.
Right. Okay.
You know, it's all extra distraction stuff. I care about the game. I care about the sport.
That's funny. That's great. Yeah. Well, okay. And clipped. There's our promo material.
Yeah. There you go.
That's fantastic. Yeah. No. I honestly I think. Because I actually have to get. Usually, I tell guests if they got to get out of here. But I got to get out of here soon. So I was going to quickly do a rapid fire with you and just throw a couple words out. And I'm trying to think of a few to tailor to you now. And just see.
I came in here with a plan that I was going to ramble to make sure you didn't get to like all the hard hitting tabloid juicy stuff, and mission accomplished.
We nailed it. Yeah, I got okay. What are your thoughts on the political atmosphere?
I'm not going to tell you where the bodies are buried. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen.
He's in Maine. No one's going to go there to even try to find them anyways.
Exactly.
That's phenomenal. Okay, I'm going to throw out a couple of words of the things we talked about. I'm just curious the first word that comes to them. Maybe we'll get some juicy words. Okay. The first word that comes to mind when I say a couple of these words here. Okay, right off the bat, esports.
Exciting.
Okay, traditional sports.
Work.
It's not as cool. Traditional sports aren't as great. All right, Rocket League.
Life-changing. That's kind of two words.
I'll give it to you though because it was very topical. Okay. All right,
okay.
Let's go a little deeper here. Consciousness.
Awake.
Okay. For some reason, the first word that came to my head was tiresome. Like, let me go back to bed. I don't need
right.
I don't need any of this crap anymore. That's great. All right. One more. I almost said Stax.
God's gift to everything.
All right, no more. That's it. I love it. There's our clip. He's full of himself, guys, and I'm going to start some own drama, and you're going to have to deal with it. Wonderful. Hey, I'm going to let you go because I got to bounce out of here too. But Stax, actually, I'll probably want to have you on in the future because this conversation was already phenomenal. I just want to get a little more insight into the daily life of Stax. I think it's honestly incredible how much you do and how much you care about. Again, your high school esports, the traditional sports, the stuff you do on the side with any of the commentary or the stadium announcing you do. And then in addition to Rocket League and how passionate you are about that. So I think it was really cool for people, if they already didn't know, to have an insight into how involved you are in a lot of different scenes. Last question: do you ever get tired of it all?
No, actually, like even when I said, traditional sports is more like work, I'll show up every day with a smile and just I'm happy to be able to do as much as I do, because I get stir crazy when I don't have anything to do. The Rocket League off season is already just miserable because Twitter loses its mind. But when I don't have anything to do, it really sucks.
Fair. Okay, you know what? Sorry, but before I go there,
Okay.
Is there one other? Have we gotten them all there? Is there one other passion thing that you're really into that we didn't cover and that people might not know about? Like, do you have like a massive yo-yo collection or something? Like, do you have any other passions that people might not know about?
No, between the esports and the traditional sports and what I want to do with the card games, no, I think we've pretty much covered it.
Okay, well, I'm gonna have your YouTube link below because I want to start seeing some YouTube content of your board game stuff too. I think that's really intriguing idea, and I'm gonna keep pushing you on that.
That'd be dope.
Yeah, because I think that'll be really fun to see. And eventually, I might hit you up because I don't know if you DM ever, but or have a way, because I always want to try. Do you do D&D campaigns at all?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Yes. So I guess add it in with the card games, like just tabletop gaming in general. Okay. Yeah. I'm a huge D&D nerd.
I would love to see a group of us casters play D&D.
Oh, that would be awesome. Somebody actually asked me about DMing for like a one shot for everybody. And I'm like, yes, but I am not really a DM. I haven't done it like full scale before. I've done it in like a Discord server, just as like another of the guys doing it. It would be really intimidating, but something that I'm probably going to get shoehorned into eventually.
I also think this would be a good group to do it with, because no one's going to call it. Oh
God, yes. Oh my God, there'd be no role playing involved. They would just play their character. It'd just be funny as hell.
I actually do. I am intrigued by DMing. I don't know, the ability to craft a story and have storylines that may never get touched, but just building out a world still just feels incredibly fun to me. But I know nothing about it, so I would have to play first before ever jumping into the DM.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but anyways, we're gonna end this off. I want to appreciate everyone that recommended getting Stax on the show. Of course, I knew it was going to be a good one, but I thank you guys for pushing to get him on sooner. And again, this is one of the ones, I know I always say it'll be nice in the comments. This is one of the ones, say whatever the fuck you want. You can be mean to him if you want. That's okay. He's the one I'm allowing that for. I won't ban any of you from the comments. But again, if you're on Spotify, make sure to jump over to YouTube, get in the comments, and recommend who you'd like to see on next. And of course, if you're watching here on YouTube, and you're like, this is too much bandwidth, we are on Spotify. So you can get over there and give a listen to that as well. Episodes come out first when I'm done editing them, usually Sunday night. For behind the paywall, if you want to get it for some reason extra early, but don't pay for it. It's on YouTube free the next day at noon, and then on Spotify at noon on Tuesday, the day after, for free. So that's the order of business. Stax, I want to say one last time, thanks for coming on and chatting with me.
Hey, appreciate you having me on, brother.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Whatever you're doing, I appreciate the support, and we'll see you on the next episode.